For years, Duane "Dog" Chapman was America's bounty-hunting hero, chasing fugitives on screen while building a reality TV empire. But behind the sunglasses, leather vests, and viral fame, his own family was quietly unraveling. Now, for the first time, his daughter is speaking out, revealing the truth behind the scandals, estrangements, and heartbreak that cameras never showed. From secret sons and tragic deaths to betrayals that nearly ended careers, this is the raw, emotional story of a father worshipped by fans and questioned by those who knew him best. What happens when the bounty hunter becomes the hunted by his own past? Hidden son Christopher. For years, fans thought they knew every member of Dog the Bounty Hunter's family. But one name, Christopher Michael Hecht, was kept in the shadows. A son, Duane "Dog" Chapman, never knew existed until Christopher was already 19 years old. Born to a woman Dog dated before his rise to fame, Christopher was raised by another family. His biological mother had taken her own life, and Christopher was adopted by Gloria Hecht, a woman who gave him love, structure, and her last name. By the time Duane and Christopher finally met, the damage of time had already left its mark. Their first meeting was filled with emotion. It was ecstatic, Christopher recalled. For Duane, it was surreal, coming face to face with the son he never raised. But the reunion was far from a fairy tale. There were trust issues, conflicting emotions, and tension from within the family. Beth Chapman, Duane's iconic wife and partner, reportedly struggled to accept Christopher. The blended family dynamic had always been difficult, but this was different. Christopher was a reminder of a chapter Duane had closed long ago, and Beth, protective as always, didn't welcome him easily. In later years, Christopher's life took a darker turn. He ended up in prison, serving a sentence for multiple charges. His release was slated for November 2023, and while he remained estranged from much of the Chapman family, Duane promised he'd be there when his son walked free. It was a rare moment of vulnerability from a man known for chasing fugitives, not reconciling with them. The truth about Christopher wasn't just a family secret. It was a reminder of the fractured bonds that even the toughest men can't outrun. And now, with time running out and the spotlight dimming, Duane's fans are left asking, will he truly show up this time? Or is it too late? Duane Lee's breakaway. In the early days of Dog the Bounty Hunter, Duane Lee Chapman II was more than just a son. He was a cornerstone of the show. With his intense stare and stoic demeanor, he handled the business end of the bounty empire, helping his dad turn arrests into a hit TV formula. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. By 2012, Duane Lee had walked away from the cameras, the family business, and most shockingly, his father. At the time, fans were told it was about creative differences, but those closest to the family knew the real story ran deeper. The tension wasn't with Dog himself, it was with Beth. According to multiple sources, Beth clashed with Duane Lee over pay, control, and his place in the brand. He reportedly felt sidelined, like a worker in a company bearing his own last name. Beth, fiercely loyal to Duane, often took charge in ways that left the adult children feeling cornered. Duane Lee had had enough. He didn't go public with a tell-all. He didn't start drama. He simply left. Walked off set, off camera, and out of his father's daily life. He moved to Florida, where he started a bail bonding company of his own. No cameras, no press, no fame. He built a private life, focusing on his own family, including his son, Dylan. For over a decade, he's remained largely off the radar. No interviews, no reality shows, just silence. But that silence speaks volumes. It's the kind of break that doesn't come from ego, but from pain. From years of feeling like a supporting player in someone else's story. And though Duane Chapman has spoken lovingly of his son since, fans still wonder, did fame cost him more than he ever earned? Leland's family bond. If there was one son who stood by Dog the longest, it was Leland Chapman. With his signature bandana and compact frame, Leland was the quick-footed, hard-hitting tracker every fan loved. But even loyalty has its limits. Born in 1976, Leland was the kid who idolized his father. He followed Duane into the bounty hunting world not out of obligation, but because he believed in it. They were a team, a duo, and for a while, they were unstoppable. But in 2012, as drama behind the scenes boiled over, Leland quietly walked away from the show too. Like his brother Duane Lee, he cited loss of passion. But many insiders say the real issue was burnout, being caught between a business, a brand, and a family in constant tension. Still, unlike Duane Lee, Leland came back. He reconciled with Duane and Beth and appeared in spin-offs like Dog and Beth, On the Hunt in 2013. He also rejoined Duane on high-profile searches, including the much-publicized Gabby Petito case in 2021. Leland wasn't just there for the cameras, he was there when it mattered most. Today, he continues to support Duane publicly, standing beside him at appearances, always calm, always collected. He's not just a bounty hunter. He's the bridge between Dog's past and whatever future he still has left. In a family defined by breakups and breakdowns, Leland remains the glue. The son who still calls, still shows up, and still believes in the man who raised him. Loss of baby Zebediah. Before the fame, before the TV empire, before the leather vests and catchphrases, Duane Chapman lived through a kind of heartbreak most people never knew about: the loss of a child. In January 1980, Duane and his then-wife, Ann M. Tengel, welcomed a baby boy, Zebediah Chapman. But Zebediah came too soon, born prematurely, with complications that quickly turned critical. He survived only a month. There were no headlines, no tributes, just a funeral and a silence that lingered for decades. Duane rarely spoke about Zebediah publicly, and when he did, it was brief, choked back with sorrow. He once said, "There's nothing worse than burying your own blood. Nothing." The pain of losing Zebediah shaped Duane in ways fans never saw. It made him harder, more determined. But it also left behind a permanent ache, one that echoed again decades later when Beth passed away in 2019. In a rare moment of reflection, Duane once admitted, "Family is all there is in life. Everything else can be taken. They can't." For the Chapman family, Zebediah remains the child who never grew up, the son whose name rarely appears in scripts or episodes, but who remains, quietly, a part of everything Duane has built. Because sometimes the loudest heartbreaks are the ones no one hears. Wesley's chance at reconnection. Wesley Chapman was the son who grew up far away from the bounty hunting spotlight. Born in November 1980, he chose a life rooted not in reality TV, but in real-life purpose. For decades, his connection with Duane was non-existent. Their relationship had fractured early, and years turned into decades. It wasn't until 38 years later that they reconnected. By then, Wesley was no longer a child seeking a father. He was a man, a husband, and the co-owner of a ski-joring ranch in Idaho, a sport that combines skiing with dog sledding. A life about speed, balance, and control. Ironic, perhaps, given the chaos he left behind. Their reunion was quiet. There were no TV cameras, no photo ops, just two men trying to bridge a gap that had once felt too wide to cross. "I finally had the second chance I'd always wanted," Wesley posted online after their reconnection. He didn't speak in anger or judgment, only hope. And Duane? He stepped into that second chance with humility. He visited, he called, he started showing up. Slowly, a new bond formed, one not built on bounty hunting or ratings, but something deeper: regret, maturity, and forgiveness. Wesley's story isn't one of conflict or controversy. It's about possibility, proof that even after a lifetime apart, healing can happen. It's a reminder that redemption isn't found in fame. It's found in the quiet moments where love decides to try again. Tragic daughter, Barbara Katie. Some wounds never heal. For Duane "Dog" Chapman, the loss of his daughter Barbara Katie was one of them. Born in June 1982, Barbara Katie, nicknamed BK, was the daughter of Duane and his third wife, Lisa Ray Britton. While she didn't appear often on Dog the Bounty Hunter, Barbara was part of the family legacy behind the scenes. A mother, a sister, a free spirit, until her life was cut short at just 23 years old. On May 19, 2006, the day before Duane's long-awaited wedding to Beth Chapman, tragedy struck. Barbara was killed in a car crash involving a stolen SUV in Fairbanks, Alaska. The vehicle rolled, ejecting her. There were no skid marks, no signs of braking. The details were murky, the pain devastating. Duane was preparing to marry the love of his life. Instead, he was making funeral arrangements for his daughter. For a moment, he considered postponing the wedding. But after family discussion, he and Beth decided to go through with it, not as a celebration, but as a tribute to Barbara's life. "She would have wanted us to keep going," Duane later said, fighting back tears. Barbara's death became a silent echo within the family. Unlike the public battles and reality show drama, this was private grief, deep, enduring, a moment that changed Duane forever. He would later call it one of the worst days of his life, second only to losing Beth. "Barbara's back in heaven," he said during an interview, "and I'll see her again." The pain didn't make headlines forever, but it never faded from Duane's heart. For a man who hunted fugitives, grieved wives, and reconciled with estranged children, the loss of Barbara was one heartbreak he never bounced back from, only carried forward with faith. Tucker D. Chapman. Scandal and betrayal. Family drama is one thing. Betrayal that nearly ruins your career? That's another. And that's exactly what happened in 2007, when Duane's son Tucker D. Chapman set off a chain reaction that almost destroyed Dog the Bounty Hunter. Tucker had lived a troubled life. At 18, he was arrested for armed robbery and sentenced to 20 years in prison. He served just 4 years, released early on parole, his father helping him re-enter society, giving him a chance to turn his life around. But that trust would soon be tested in the most public way possible. In October 2007, a private phone call between Duane and Tucker was secretly recorded. During the heated exchange, Duane used a racial slur to refer to Tucker's girlfriend, expressing concern that the relationship might damage the family's TV image. Without warning, Tucker sold the tape to the National Enquirer, reportedly for tens of thousands of dollars. The fallout was immediate and brutal. A&E pulled the show off the air. Duane issued a tearful apology, claiming he was ashamed, embarrassed, and devastated. But the damage was done, not just to his reputation, but to the very foundation of trust between father and son. "He was trying to help me," Tucker later claimed. It was just the wrong words. But to Duane, it was deeper than just a bad word. It was a betrayal of love, of loyalty, of everything he had given to help Tucker rebuild his life. The two eventually reconnected, slowly, cautiously, but their relationship was never the same. That scandal became one of the darkest chapters in Duane's career, and Tucker became the son who burned the bridge just to feel its heat. Baby Lissa Chapman, pain behind the smile. On television, Baby Lissa was the tough, blonde, bounty-hunting daughter with a no-nonsense attitude. But behind the scenes, her story was one of deep pain, personal demons, and a fractured relationship with the man she called Dad. Born in 1987 to Duane and his third wife, Lissa Ray Britton, Baby Lissa was raised amid chaos and instability. She became a teen mom at 15, had a complicated relationship with both her parents, and found herself caught in the middle of family fame and family dysfunction. She eventually joined Dog the Bounty Hunter, becoming a fan favorite. But while she helped track down fugitives on screen, she was silently battling emotional wounds that never quite healed. In her memoir, Walking on Eggshells, Baby Lissa accused Duane of drug use, violent behavior, and neglect during her formative years. She claimed she was sexually abused as a child, not by Duane, but by someone he trusted, and said her cries for help were ignored. "He was the bounty hunter for everyone else," she wrote, "but not always for me." For years, their relationship was icy. Public smiles masked private distance. But with time, and after the death of Beth, Lissa began to soften. She opened up about her own healing, her marriage to a woman named Liana, and raising 2 daughters of her own. While the relationship with Duane remains complicated, they've rebuilt parts of their bond, showing up at family events, exchanging kind words online, and speaking with more empathy than ever before. Baby Lissa doesn't sugarcoat the past, but she hasn't let it define her either. Her truth has become her strength, and in sharing it, she's become a survivor, not just a sidekick. Bonnie Chapman, the estranged activist, daughter. When Beth Chapman passed away in 2019, the world mourned, but inside the family, new wounds began to form, none deeper than the one between Duane and Bonnie Chapman, Beth's youngest daughter. At first, Bonnie stayed quiet. She grieved, supported her siblings, and kept her distance from the drama swirling around her father's remarriage. But by 2021, the silence shattered. Bonnie accused Duane of betraying Beth's legacy, both personally and publicly. She claimed he had become racist, homophobic, and had cheated on Beth during her cancer battle. She also alleged that he had turned his back on their shared values, falling in with a crowd that Beth never would have approved of. "My mother would be heartbroken," she said in a viral statement. This isn't the man she loved. Bonnie wasn't just speaking from grief. She was also building her own voice, working on a show called The System, focusing on justice, reform, and LGBTQ+ advocacy. In 2021, Duane married Francie Frayne, and Bonnie was not invited. The exclusion was a clear line in the sand. Still, Bonnie insists she's not angry, just disappointed. "I've forgiven him more times than I can count," she said. "But that doesn't mean I forget." Their relationship remains strained, with public comments from both sides, but no full reconciliation. To Bonnie, the truth matters more than appearances, and in speaking up, she became the daughter who refused to stay silent, no matter how famous her father was. Gary Chapman, the quiet supporter. In a family known for chaos, cameras, and conflict, Gary Chapman has always been the calm in the storm. The youngest son of Duane and Beth Chapman, Gary was born in 2001, during the height of the bounty hunting family's fame. But unlike his older siblings, Gary never sought the spotlight. He grew up in front of the cameras, but he never let them define him. Even as a teen, he kept his distance from the drama that surrounded his father's empire. Friends describe him as kind, respectful, and focused. The one Chapman who quietly watched, listened, and learned. In 2020, Gary suffered a serious four-wheeler accident that briefly hospitalized him. While it wasn't life-threatening, it served as a wake-up call for both him and Duane. Suddenly, the youngest son became a reminder of what still mattered: life, family, survival. After Beth's death, Gary became more of a support system for his father than anyone expected. While others distanced themselves or criticized Duane's choices, Gary stood by him. He didn't make headlines, but he showed up, whether it was at home, in court, or online. Now living in Colorado and reportedly working in law enforcement, Gary continues to share the Chapman name, but without chasing its fame. On social media, he occasionally posts messages about strength, faith, and gratitude, often referencing his parents. One caption read simply, "It's not about being loud. It's about being loyal." In a fractured family full of broken ties and bold voices, Gary's quiet presence has become a grounding force, a gentle echo of the best parts of both Duane and Beth. Francie Frayne and the fallout. When Duane Chapman remarried in 2021, it should have been a new beginning. But for many of his children, it felt like the final rupture. His marriage to Francie Frayne, a Colorado rancher and widow, didn't just mark a second chance at love. It opened deep wounds that had never fully healed since Beth's passing. Francie wasn't a celebrity. She wasn't a bounty hunter. She was private, reserved, and unfamiliar to most of Duane's children, some of whom weren't even introduced before the wedding. That alone sparked tension. But what followed tore things even further apart. Bonnie and Cecily, both of whom were close to Beth, publicly revealed they weren't invited to the wedding. They claimed Francie had changed their father, distancing him from the family, erasing Beth's legacy, and allowing bitterness to grow in place of grief. "We were never even given a chance," Bonnie said. "She replaced Mom and pushed us out in the process." Duane defended Francie, saying the marriage had nothing to do with replacing Beth, but everything to do with healing his broken heart. Still, the fallout was undeniable. Behind the scenes, it was reported that Francie's son, Greg, began taking on roles within the family's business, even allegedly stepping into leadership positions that once belonged to Duane's own children. It didn't go unnoticed. Some fans rallied behind Duane's right to find love again. Others questioned how quickly he moved on. But one thing was clear. The fractures within the Chapman family grew wider, and Francie's arrival, fair or not, became a turning point. In many ways, the marriage didn't just divide a family. It exposed just how fragile the Chapman legacy had become. The daughter who finally spoke out. She had stayed quiet for years, watched the show, endured the loss of her mother, weathered the scandals. But eventually, Bonnie Chapman, the daughter who had always walked the tightrope between love and truth, broke her silence. And when she did, it shook the entire Chapman legacy. In an emotional interview with Inside Edition, Bonnie didn't hold back. She accused Duane of racism, homophobia, and betraying the very values her mother Beth had fought to preserve. She said he had fallen into extremist views, turned his back on family, and lost the moral compass he once wore like a badge. "This isn't the man my mom married," she said. She'd be heartbroken to see what he's become. But it wasn't just anger. It was grief. The grief of watching her father remarry without her. The grief of being uninvited. The grief of seeing the man who once held her as a child now treat her like a stranger. Still, Bonnie made it clear. This wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. She said she had forgiven him many times, even tried to understand him. But the final break came not from one moment, but from years of silence, exclusion, and contradiction. Her public statements forced fans to look at Dog the Bounty Hunter not just as a TV star, but as a father, a husband, a man who made decisions that left scars. "I still love him," Bonnie admitted, but love isn't the same as blind loyalty. Her story didn't just go viral. It reframed how the public viewed the Chapman dynasty, not as a family bound by blood and bounty, but as one splintered by fame, grief, and pride. In the end, Bonnie wasn't trying to destroy her father's legacy. She was trying to tell the truth. And in doing so, she became the daughter who finally said what no one else would. He hunted fugitives across America, but couldn't outrun the pain within his own family. As truths come to light, Duane "Dog" Chapman's legacy is no longer just about justice. It's about redemption. And thanks to his daughter's voice, the world can finally see the man beyond the badge.